purpose of this video is to go through the operational blueprint for re-entry for St. Joseph. I'm going to ask that you please have this blueprint in front of you with a highlighter and to go through it as we do, because we have to understand every single page. The first page has to do with the community health metrics. There are 3 levels of metrics to open school all day. There's a separate set of metrics for just K3, and it explains when to close. This limited in-person instruction is what we're doing now with the 2 hours each day classes. Chapter 1, Section A starts out with some basic requirements and explaining that I'm going to train you. Anytime we get a confirmed case of COVID-19 or any clusters of interesting illnesses among students or staff, we have to let the local public health authority know. Please highlight this. Each class comes through, we are required, the teachers are asked to please spray desktops, doorknobs, light switches, chair tops, and any other high-touch areas. After the kids are through with each class, go through with Virex and spray everything. Don't wipe it, just spray it. It will dry before the next set of kids gets there. The bathrooms and the front office counter will be maintained by other people. The library is probably going to be an extended care room this year, so we won't have to worry about that either. We have to keep classroom cohort log books. I have purchased a red binder for everyone, red for cardinals. We are going to track anything unusual that happens that a contact tracing person might need to know. So we will go through these together. Every day we are going to be screened for any of the COVID-19 symptoms. The first symptom that ever shows up is a fever. So if anyone has a fever of 100.4 degrees or higher, they do not get to come to school or stay at school. The other symptoms are listed here. And we have to send them home if they've got a cough that they cannot control, unless there's a note from a doctor that says, I know that this is from allergies or some unrelated something. But cough, temperature, chills, shortness of breath, or difficulty breathing, these are the ones that are of utmost concern to us. So these are the ones I need you to be paying attention to, and that's here on page 6. These we will screen for every morning, so hopefully it won't have to get all the way to you. If a child has these specific symptoms and then they need to stay home for 10 days after the onset of respiratory symptoms and until 24 hours after a fever is gone without taking any fever-reducing medication. They can come back before the 10 days is up if they have a COVID test that is negative or if they have a doctor's note that says they don't have COVID. But if they choose to not get either of those, then if they have respiratory symptoms, they stay home for 10 days. If they have just a fever, they have to be home for 24 hours until after that fever is gone. We will be tracking that on the health screening page so that we know when students can come back. There are other COVID-19 symptoms that we want to pay attention to, but we can't exclude them for muscle pain, headaches, sore throat, new loss of taste or smell, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, nasal congestion, and runny nose. We can send them home if they're vomiting. We can ask that they stay home 24 hours after they vomit, but if any of this happens to a point where we would like to send them home, we will isolate the kid, and that comes later. On the top of page 7, it talks about arrival. We are trying to limit the number of parents in the building. Hopefully no parents in the building. Absolutely never no parents in the classrooms. When the kids get there, I need the teachers, except for the first day, I need the teachers to be standing in the doorway, monitoring both the classroom and the hallway. And as soon as students walk in, they will be required to wash their hands with soap and water if you have a sink, or use hand sanitizer if you don't have a sink. So first thing as kids get there, this is very important for you to know. Pre-K students are going to meet on the playground so they can get signed in. Parents must wear their face coverings. Teachers will record names of people who drop off and pick up, and times, so they don't share the writing implement. But that will all happen on the playground, and then the teacher will take the kids in. Students who arrive late and miss the health screening will be screened at the front office, and the time recorded in the logbook there. And again, we'll talk about logbooks when we get face-to-face. If anyone becomes ill during the day to the point where they need to be removed from the class, we will isolate them. We are turning the small office inside the staff room to be the isolation room. This room will have a desk, a phone, a computer, a room divider, and a cot. It's also got one of those buttons where you can let people in from the front door, which is why we chose this room. So because we don't have any paid front office staff, unfortunately, it's going to have to be that parent volunteer. So hopefully we won't have very many, particularly with the kids only there for 2 hours. Parents of ill students will be called right away so the parents can come pick them up. If we have 2 at once, then I will take the other person to room 207, which is the room right next to the principal's office, so that they can also be isolated. There are protocols for what if a student or a staff member has been exposed to someone with COVID. What if you think you might be exposed to someone who has COVID? What if you were exposed to someone who has symptoms, but you don't know that they have COVID? There are all kinds of if this then that charts that I have that we need to follow. The biggest one that we need to worry about is on the bottom of page 7 right now. If the school is currently holding limited in-person instruction during comprehensive distance learning, it will be discontinued for 2 full weeks, 14 days. So if any staff person or any student gets it, this does not include any household members. But if someone's household member gets COVID, then they need to stay home and do the online version of distance learning. So the binder for maintaining daily logs are going to hold, there's a binder in the front office and there's a binder in each classroom. There's a log page so that we can track any specialist teacher, any student in the bathroom, any classes who end up passing each other in the hallway, so they're coming into contact with each other and this is when we're all day, playground cross-contamination, things like that. So the binder is going to have a current roster of the cohort and anyone who interacts with the cohort will be logged in it, along with their contact information. So there's one in the front office and one in each classroom. So if you've got a kid who has to go to the bathroom in the middle of a class, you're going to note it on the log because that's outside of the regular schedule, that kind of thing. So all of this log information needs to be highlighted for you. I have to be able to send this log information to our local public health authority, whoever asks for it, as soon as they ask for it. So I'm going to need you to keep that updated every day. Now, we have high-risk students and high-risk staff members on campus, and they have a list of what makes you high risk. We need to make sure that we follow every single protocol for the safety of our people and the safety of their family members, because these little kids are going home to a household. And they go on and on about different ways that we can serve high-risk students. So we've made online learning an option with no regrets and no stress and no judgment for anybody who wants it for their family, because they know their family best. Bottom of page 9 starts the ILP focus. We need to determine the COVID issues with students. On the top of page 10, the students with poor time management skills, and they fall behind in work during distance learning, the students with few in-class friends, and the students who need a close relationship with their teacher to be confident and successful. This is a real issue. We've already got students who are like this. These should be written into ILPs so that we have a record of student issues in writing in their files. The bottom of page 10 is exactly how we're going to physically distance each other. So we don't have family groups anymore. Little kids cannot go into any room other than their cohort classroom. Teachers are asked to stand in the doorway if you want to talk to anyone in a classroom that's not your classroom cohort. Students will not be sent to the front office for any purpose other than if the child needs to take a pill or something serious is wrong, and some kind of electronic measure to communicate has to happen. Now, because we don't have a full-time front office personnel, I'm not sure who that's going to be with or how reliable those parents are going to be. In the afternoon, it's going to be Carrie Appleton. So we'll have somebody who is able to negotiate things that are needed. Students won't be allowed to receive phone calls or come pick things up or whatever, or make phone calls home. They're here for 2 hours. That should be enough. Students will need all of their supplies at their desk to minimize wandering. If anybody gets up and wanders around the room, they are stirring up the air. And if we have kids who are working at their desk who have taken their masks off, those kids are walking closer to the kids without masks. So essentially, we need to require that everybody sits down and stays there, and that's not going to be easy. So some of the questions we need to talk about: will students use their lockers? They're spaced really closely together. Do we have few enough kids and enough lockers that we can space kids and say group A go out, group B go out, and they'll still be 6 feet apart? We have to figure that out as a staff. Students will have all of their supplies in one box and not share. So we don't have class sets of anything anymore. If you do have a class set of something like a bin full of Elmer's glue, you will need to sanitize the Elmer's glue at the end of the day. So place it somewhere else. Everybody gets their own, and then when they turn it in, you squirt them all down with Virex.